and welcome to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast, Daily World Cup edition. Mikey Stafford here, joined by Darragh Maloney from Doha and James McMahon from the equally glamorous and sun-drenched location of Montrose. How are you, Jim? How's Montrose?
I'm good. It's actually quite balmy in here today. It's actually quite balmy outside. I mean, it's the 26th of November. You actually think it's the 26th of June, but of course these games should be taking place on the 26th of June. But we are where we are. I think game 24 is entering its last 25 minutes. It's not a classic, but
Jesus, there's a goal. Sorry, Lionel Messi just scored an absolute cracker from about 25 yards. Mm-hmm. Something's happened. Darragh, how are you? Your stream's slightly behind mine.
No, I haven't seen it yet. It's on the telly behind me, and so I haven't seen it. So because I'm a little bit behind, even though I'm in the city where the match is taking place. So he got the ball edge of the penalty area, drilled it low on the ground, and that's why he is the GOAT.
Yes.
I saw a headline today with people saying goats don't go out in the first round, but that could just change everything. And because I was, but I suppose that's the sign of a really good team. And I let's see how good they are. That they're like Mexico have tried to. How will I put this in a nice way? Physically intimidate them, and Argentina are quite good at that as well. And
hasn't made for free flowing football.
No, but what is free-flowing football? But anyway, at the end of the day, there's no pictures on how they won the match. They just need to win the match. And, listen, if they can get out of this group and they have him in the team, who knows? Who knows?
That is a fantastic goal. That is.
It is. It's just classic him.
One touch and absolutely wallops it into the bottom
goes
corner.
The correct way, and it's the only place he can put it. Kind of out fab. Listen, that's why he is who he is.
Yeah.
Although the first half, I thought he looked out of sorts. He was just, as he does, I suppose, look, he's got to conserve energy. He's just kind of strolling around, doing his thing and watching everybody else kick lumps out of each other. But that's a great story. But it's funny. So you're there, you're at home in Ireland. I'm here in the city and I'm 30 seconds behind you, so anyway, I won't watch the telly anymore. You'll just tell me what happens.
No, but Darragh, I need you to watch it then, because you are obviously there because you can paint a better picture than the rest of us. It's nice to have you there to do it. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, this podcast, obviously we recorded during the last half hour of the 7 o'clock match just so we have something to react to. And thus far, everybody's always been on a different timed stream. It is a streaming World Cup. This is the World Cup of people working from home and it being on during office hours. And I'd say the GDP of continental Europe has gone through the floor, I would imagine. But Darragh, we'll keep an eye on this, obviously.
Yeah.
But the new GOAT, you had the pleasure of watching Kylian Mbappe. And not just Kylian Mbappe, because it was arguably the game of the tournament, I'd say, so far. France versus Denmark in the unusual Stadium 974. I think the Danes could have done with a 975th container in which to put Kylian Mbappe, and they might have had a chance.
Yeah, like myself and Ronnie were talking about it on the commentary. Like, how do you deal with him? What do you do? He's going to get the ball, and okay, you can say, well, stop the delivery of the ball going into him. But, even in the first half, I think he got the ball 15 times and he wasn't playing particularly well. Like, just stuff was not happening for him. He tried to beat his defender, 2 or 3 times early on in the first half, and he just lost the ball. And you're kind of thinking he sort of is having a frustrating night. And then all of a sudden he explodes. And to actually see it I'm sure it comes through on the television, obviously, but in real, time, to watch him and watch his pace. Like, he's so fast. Okay, Dembele is fast too, but this guy is just different world. And he'll get all the headlines. I think if Giroud does actually break this Thierry Henry record, he won't have it for long because Mbappe will take it from him, But yeah, it was just a pleasure to watch him. And I suppose game of the tournament, I can't properly judge that because we've only done whatever it is, how many games since it started, and you're watching bits in the background. Like I have this thing on now with Argentina, Mexico. And
this isn't the game of the tournament.
No, but actually maybe the worst game of the tournament. It could be that one. It could be in the opposite category. But I really enjoyed the match, and like Denmark played their part in it. And they've kind of had the sort of France's bogey team this year, beating them twice. But France have just made this, the what is it? Last three winners all go out in the group phase, and they just made this look easy. They made it look easy against Australia the other night, and having started slowly, conceding the first goal, and just kind of been all over the place. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. It's all a bit. I'll turn that on silent. They've just been very impressive. 2 wins out of 2 into the last 16. Job done, and he can. Okay, they haven't officially won the group, and I'd be kind of very much into that. Go and get that done, and then they can fix the last 16. But they will do that. I would think. But now Denmark are in peril. Australia are ahead of them.
Yeah, I think, Darragh, it needs to be a 6-goal swing for France.
Yeah,
if
no, absolutely, Jason, but
exactly,
and like that's hugely unlikely. But it's not. They've not. Listen, when that happens, then they'll officially have won the group. But as of tonight, they haven't. They haven't won the group tonight. They more or less have, but it's not official.
Yeah, because Jim, Australia, best will in the world, don't look like a team who are going to score 2 or 3 or 4, and Tunisia don't look like a team certainly who are going to score 2 or 3 or 4 against France.
Would you fancy the Danes to beat the Aussies, Darragh?
Oh God, I don't know. I like the Australia. Watching them the other night, they're a spirited team. They're sort of an ordinary team. They're not the 2006 team, the Tim Cahill, Harry Kewell, who was sitting beside us the other night. And that, that was an exceptional team. Nearly, beat Italy in Germany in 2006 and all that. But they're better than the sum of the parts kind of thing. And I just don't know. I think for them to win today was massive, because mentally they would have been on the floor, conceding 4 goals. It could have been anything. Having started so well, that's a problem for them. But you just don't know. They're I saw the coach afterwards. We did get to see the pictures at the end of him, and he was crying on the pitch, tears in his eyes. This is a huge thing, and they do not win many matches at World Cups. So to do that today, it doesn't matter who it's against. It's a World Cup win. And sort of all bets are off. You just don't know what's going to happen against Denmark,
To go back to Mbappe and to France, the last World Cup, Jim, he unusually, France were in a group with Denmark and Australia as well, and he didn't manage to score against either of them. His only goal in the group stages was against Peru. And I was just thinking about it today, he was the breakout star of the last World Cup, but they won it, and he was definitely. But he wasn't what he is now. He's now absolutely the talisman. The man the team is built around. 4 years ago, you could make the argument for Pogba. You could make the argument N'Golo Kante was their most important player. He's 23 now, Jim, and he is without doubt the most important player on the French team, who are probably, I don't know what the bookies' odds are now, but they got to be close to favourites to win it again.
Yeah, and what is he? He's 23, and he probably hasn't reached his peak yet.
Scary thought.
Is he likely to be the player of this tournament? Possibly, quite possibly. You know what I mean? So, and I think France are really probably now in quite a good space, having more or less qualified with 1 game to go. But I would love to be where Darragh was today, just watching this specimen in this flying machine dart up the field. But in saying that, Darragh, he was a bit off it in the opening 45 minutes, I thought.
Yeah, I know, absolutely, and we said that. Yeah, we kind of made that comment that it just wasn't happening for him, and to turn it around and do what he did, because there were sort of stitches in that game for France. When Christensen equalized, you're kind of, oh God, what's on here, but he's an incredible athlete, never mind a footballer, and the pace and the power, and the 2 guys on the right hand side for Denmark were terrified of him, and rightly so. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's what do you do? How do you manage him? Yeah. When there was I think Christensen got booked as well for sort of rugby tackling him, and you're kind of going, well, I could feel for the defender, because it's well, what are you supposed to do? And there were the other 2 centre backs that they were kind of level with him when the foul took place in the first half, but they wouldn't have. Actually, they were ahead of him, heading back towards their own goal, but they wouldn't have caught him. Usain Bolt probably couldn't catch him, but he's just incredible. And again, it's just such a difference from last year. With the Euros, remember he missed the penalty, and he just looked so totally out of sorts, so unhappy, didn't want to be there. You know, and I remember the shots of him, the pictures of him after he missed the penalty, and it's just like his world had fallen asunder. But you hear all the stuff at PSG that maybe that, you know, who runs the dressing room and all that stuff. And I think that dressing room is probably a mess anyway. It's certainly not the manager who runs it, but you know, he's just such a different character, and he obviously likes being in that environment. Maybe the fact that Benzema isn't there, even though the two of them get on and all that stuff and played last year together. But, you know, like Deschamps said, he didn't replace Benzema because he just wants Mbappe to be the main man. And maybe there's a bit of freedom for him in that. And maybe he prefers playing with Giroud and all of that stuff, you know. So Griezmann really good as well after a bad season. You know, he hasn't played very well. But when he starts drifting around the pitch, and Denmark didn't know what the hell to do, where was he? And he did that the other day against Australia after a sticky start. So
yeah, he's playing as a
team.
He's playing as a third midfielder, really, Griezmann, which is an unusual use of him. But it's Deschamps is quite he is quite imaginative. He's a lot of talent. Probably less than he had 4 years ago. His bench probably isn't as his squad isn't as deep as it was 4 years ago. But his starting 11 is arguably stronger than it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, but Mikey, you look at who's gone out of that team and who's not available. You know, and all the bad luck they had with the injuries, and even Hernandez the other night doing his ACL. Now his brother was brilliant when he came in, and really good tonight as well. He's quick too, getting forward.
He was very good, Darragh.
Yeah, really good.
Hernandez,
very, very good. But like, look at, you know, Pogba. Look, that's the whole debate. We could do 6 hours on Pogba, and we still wouldn't agree. You know, Kante gone out of that team. Kimpembe gone out of that team, you know, like it's just because they probably could have a squad of 40 now. And Mikey, as you correctly say, it's a bit thinner when you look on the bench. Like Coman coming on, he's just got over an injury and stuff like that. Varane started tonight, and they're minding him. You know, like I thought he missed the World Cup. Remember the tears that day when he came off the pitch, and you're going, this fella's, he's out. He's done something serious. So, yeah, the squad is not as deep. That's a concern for them. They're a bit worried about what right back. Pavard didn't start tonight. They put Jules Koundé in there. And they've played him there a few times, and it hasn't really worked. Like France have used, I think, 34 players this year. 7 players were given debuts as well. So, you know, he's kind of fiddling around with it, and the results haven't been brilliant, but they've won 2 out of 2, and they're in the last 16.
Yeah, and Darragh, of course, when you talk about squad depth, I suppose they don't have the same depth of squad as Brazil. You know what I mean? Who really have, you know, and that could be the determining factor once we get to the business end.
Yeah, like we were saying it the other night, and look, it was just such a joy to see. First of all, that stadium is remarkable, the Lusail Stadium where Argentina are playing right now. And just to be, we got the train out there and the metro. I keep calling it the tube, but it's the metro, and out you go, and it's just full of Brazilians, and all the, you know, the singing and dancing and the music and the carnival, and not a drop of drink anywhere, and they sing and dance and all that stuff, and it just is a great build up to it. I remember saying the other night, you could probably put Brazil's second team in, and they probably would get pretty close to getting to the semi-finals or the final. Like, it's the depth is that deep. I don't necessarily think he's picked the right team, or he has the, you know, there's other players you'd like to see in it. But you know, they're very, very strong. And you know, maybe the Neymar thing, he's missing the next 2 games. It may not be that big a deal with the other players that they have there. Like Richarlison the other night, the first half, I just didn't get it.
Donkey.
No, I wouldn't say that. But,
no.
You know, people have gone to trouble for saying that.
Sorry.
So I disassociate myself from that comment immediately. But, as I would. But anyway, no. Like, but then he scores like a goal for the ages, a goal that we're going to see. You know, any of these highlights reels that people watch. You know, kids who are looking at it now, and they're 6 and 7. They'll be looking at it in 40 years' time at that goal. And it was just remarkable. But like, the Brazilians are mad about him. They think he's brilliant. I know Tottenham fans mightn't be so sure, Everton fans, etc. But, you know, look, they do have great depth in the squad. And I think that's probably the deepest squad there. You could make a case for England, although Southgate doesn't seem to want to play any of the guys who are any good.
Yeah. The
John Stones.
Phil Foden, sorry.
Phil Foden. Sorry, Phil.
Stones is playing. He's playing quite well.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, Foden is on the side of milk cartons in Qatar, I think, at this stage. A quirk here, Jim. Argentina is still huffing and puffing away 1-0 with about 13 minutes to go. There's a good chance Argentina, despite this win, could finish second in this group. France are likely to top their group, which would mean for the second World Cup in a row, France would face Argentina in the last 16. It's a weird quirk that there's a good chance 3 of France's first 4 opponents will be the same at successive World Cups.
Yeah, and if Argentina if they play Poland next, if they were to win that would put them on to 6 points, assuming they win tonight, put them on to 6. Poland would have 4. I mean, if they beat Poland, they're probably going through. Would that be right?
Australia? Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, if they hold on here, yeah, they could win the group.
It's not the pairing, Mikey, that you probably want in the last 16 of this tournament. You probably want to keep France and Argentina. Is there the likelihood that France and England could meet? I think in the quarterfinals. I think, but that's just pushing it further down the road to see what would happen. But
yeah, it's interesting. We'll move on for the Mbappe show because I think we're going to be talking about him again during this tournament. Let's be honest. Another famous forward who got a goal finally. You probably didn't see it there. I don't know if you saw it, but Robert Lewandowski was in tears on the ground after he finally scored, gifted a goal by the poor Saudi Arabia defence. But honestly, it took him about 30 seconds. It actually looked like he was praying to Mecca. He was like on his knees with his hands out in front of him, and the whole team, they kind of left him after a while. They're like, I think the celebration's finished, Robert. And he just lay there. It must be such a relief for him because one of the great strikers of his generation, and it was just like this albatross around his neck.
Like, did I hear today? Oh, see, we were in the press center looking at it. I did see him score. I did see the pictures of him crying and all that sort of thing. There's no I in team, but there is an M and an E. Let's just throw that in there. But listen, he's a remarkable striker. He's had a remarkable career. He loves playing for his country. Like, I remember him scoring several. There was one goal in particular he scored against us, I think in 2015 in Warsaw, like a brilliant kind of bullet. Yeah, like it just.
That.
He's exceptional. He's an incredible player. There's great connection with the Polish public, it appears too. But it is kind of daft that was his first World Cup goal, today. But yeah, look, now he's got that off his back. Maybe things will be very different. But look, Poland are a good team, and that there's when you have him in there, it doesn't matter what sort of form he's in. Get him the ball. There's always a chance that he'll score a goal. So, look, he's he's a huge name in world football, never mind European football. And they're the sort of players you want to see thriving in this competition. And
it's probably his final World Cup as well, Darragh. So like this was
like he'll be at least 60 by the time the next one comes around.
That's right. also a shout out for the Polish keeper Chesney.
Yeah,
he saved a penalty, but then the rebound came. You probably remember. I probably wasn't even born when Jim Montgomery saved that great penalty for Sunderland against Leeds in the '73 Cup final. You might remember it, or Darragh, but it was acrobatic stuff. David Coleman thought the ball was in the net, but it not quite Jim Montgomery, but great acrobatics to keep that ball out today.
It was phenomenal. He made a couple of other really remarkable saves. He's only 32 still, and this is about his 4th or 5th major tournament, and his penalty record's remarkable. But just in general, he is. If you have one of them at one end and the other at the other end, fill in the gaps, and it could be a very high stakes game between them and Argentina now. In their final game, Mexico heading the ball towards the Argentina goal, but Martinez gathered it easily there. They're not offering a whole lot here in Mexico.
I haven't seen that bit yet. You have to ruin it for me.
Oh, no, it wasn't that much. It was just that we were mentioning Argentina. I thought I better mention this game.
You're right.
This game is suffering away in the background. The other games, speaking of suffering away in the background, I was keeping an eye on Australia and Tunisia this morning, Jim. I don't know if you had the pleasure.
No, I was I was partially on my way into work, but by all accounts, Australia probably got the better of it in a game that probably won't be remembered. Tunisia had a couple of chances later on, but I think by all accounts the Aussies deserved it, and they now face the Danes with a chance of getting through to the last 16. Probably wouldn't have thought that beforehand,
Yeah, no, they have a good chance. And in fairness, to score against Tunisia is an achievement, Darragh. I was looking at it. Outside of, I think, a 7-1 or 7-2 loss to Brazil, out of their last 10 games, they kept 9 clean sheets. So any goal against Tunisia is a collector's item.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did see the goal, and it was a lovely goal.
It was a great header, beautiful
Yeah,
header.
you can't help but be delighted for them. There's a very strong football culture in Australia, and it competes with so many other sports. It's way off being the number one sport.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, look, they're brilliant. You can't sort of but feel happy for them. And like Denmark are in a mess. This whole thing now, they're conceding that late goal. And I would have most people would have had France and Denmark getting out that group. France obviously, but the Danes, yeah, because we know them so well. We're so used to suffering at the hands of Christian Eriksen and company. So it's right in the mix, and that is a massive game for both of them.
No, yeah, I think there's going to be some, I suppose,
some tasty games coming up next week, Darragh. I mean, you got Iran against the States, Poland against Argentina, Denmark against Australia, and God knows maybe after tomorrow. Yeah,
we're doing Spain and Germany tomorrow night. Like that's
that's just
bananas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's look at tomorrow's games then. Yeah, and let's start with the last one. Darragh, Germany, I think out of their last 8 tournament games, they've lost 5 and they've won 2. They obviously, the last World Cup was a disaster, and they were very unconvincing in the Euros. They kind of stumbled along until England put them out of their misery.
Yeah.
You'd wonder what it is. Like nobody was talking about this time. It's not like a massive shock. I don't think that it'll be a shock if they go out with a game to spare. Yeah. But no one was talking them up really. But they're a football powerhouse. They have one of the top 3 or 4 leagues in Europe, and part of me just thinks, are Bayern Munich becoming a massive problem for German football? I don't know whether it's kind of the lack of competition in the league is an issue or what it is, because when you look at this, like, they're not reaching the sum of their parts, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah. I can't figure it out. I'm amazed. I was stunned, as everybody else was the other night. To I suppose, having been in Japan 20 years ago for that World Cup, and they made it out of the group and got into the last 16, and but they were kind of to at a major tournament, to think of Japan beating Germany, you're going, nah, that's not going to happen, and it did. And I don't know, like, I know Didi called out some of the German attitude and thought they were kind of lazy and all that stuff, and took things for granted. And there was a bit of showboating as well that he made comment about, and like that all probably plays into it. But that's not the Germans don't do that. And I suppose maybe we have this cliche about the Germans do tournaments, and they do tournaments so well, and they know about staying together. And actually, we were walking out of the ground tonight. Jurgen Klinsmann was ahead of us. He's over here working for FIFA, doing some technical analysis stuff. And you're thinking of him, like, go back to 2006 when he took that team, which was a really ordinary team that people didn't rate at all. Ordinary is unfair, but what I mean is the public didn't have a connection with them. They were kind of they were like, oh God, we're hosting this tournament and we're not sure how it's going to go. We could be embarrassed. And should they get all the way to the last 4? But he kind of started that thing, and Joachim Löw was with him in that tournament, and they built up this team spirit, and they put a lot of thought into where they stayed and where the camp was, and it was all about relaxation, staying away from the public pressure. Like, it was all mindfulness and wellness and all that stuff long before its time. And you don't expect them to be in this kind of mess.
Oh, Hansi Flick, Jim today, quite interestingly, did his press conference all on his own. While I'm talking, Argentina just gone 2-0 up. Enzo Fernandez has curled in a lovely goal from the edge of the area. So Mexican fans looking very depressed in the crowd. Anyway, Jim, he did his press conference all on his own because the Germans are based about 100 kilometers north in Qatar, around, if it's the map of Wexford, around Arklow or Inch, and he didn't want to bring a player down to this central media centre where they're doing all the media, which is kind of odd, instead of doing it in the stadium. But then the Germans will also be, people will be thinking maybe the German players didn't want to talk after their protest ahead of the last game. But he's a man under pressure, and as Darragh said, he's a proven winner. So, but Germany, they're coming up against a team who, scored 7 goals in their last game and look terribly impressive. And you'd imagine the Spanish would revel in putting the Germans out of the tournament as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking the other night on the podcast about a possible golden generation of Spanish players coming up. I mean, I think they would love nothing more than to put the Germans up. But it's funny, Mikey, sometimes in tournament football, how the first round match can be so different to the second round match. So you probably would expect the Germans to have a big response tomorrow. I saw pictures of them there in training. It seemed quite like a happy camp. Everybody was smiling and all that. But just to go back to the points that earlier we were making about Germany, I mean, they seem to lack that German efficiency, that being able to grind out games. You know what I mean? Like the other day, they controlled that match against Japan for about 60 minutes. There was only one team in it. There was only one team looked like winning it. Then Flick made some substitutions. He took off that young Bayern Munich player, Musiala. Yeah, and before he knows it, his team are 2-1 down. And, you know, a German team possibly of old might have struck in the 89th minute for an equaliser, but the Germans don't seem to have that kind of graft and that kind of Cliff Thorburn-like snooker-esque way of, you know, like grinding things out. So I think it would be a huge shock for a big footballing power if they were to exit a World Cup finals at the group stage for the successive time. You know, that's very likely. And then really to have no real competitive games until they host the next Euros in June of 24.
Yeah. There's German football fans listening to this podcast now furiously Googling Cliff Thorburn to figure out what the hell you've just said.
Thorburn, master, I think he was known as Master Grinder. Was he known as the Grinder? I think he was. But
I think you're right. So yeah, look, that is a huge game. It's going to be fascinating. Darragh, you're lucky enough to be at that one. We'll look forward to it. The other Belgium, Morocco, Japan, Costa Rica are Belgium really need to bounce back. But the other game that interests me, Darragh, is Croatia v Canada, and it's all kicking off with this one ahead of the match. John Herdman obviously was heard in his kind of post-match huddle with the Croatian players, saying that they were going to F Croatia in their next game, and he repeated it, actually literally saying F Croatia, leaving out the expletive in his press conference. And it's gone down like a lead balloon in Croatia. The Croatian manager mentioned it, said to put those words together with us is kind of disrespectful. You know, you should be showing more respect to your opponent. And one of the Croatian tabloids has mocked him up. I don't know if you saw this, the front page of one of the Croatian tabloids. He's head to toe naked with just a maple leaf flag over his mouth and a maple leaf flag, very small maple leaf flag in his crotchal area. And they're kind of saying, now can you back up what you're saying? Kind of put your money where your mouth is, but the Croatian vernacular of that. So this is the grudge we didn't know we needed: Croatia versus Canada.
Look, and I suppose, look, I know if that was somebody playing Ireland, and you know how sensitive we are about our team, we'd be just as upset as our friends in Croatia are about that. I suppose in defence of Herdman, he did not know he was being recorded. The camera just appears. I'm assuming he didn't know. If there's a huddle afterwards and stuff, and we have every match here has that spider cam, which is astonishing. I was looking at it today, going, God, if that falls on somebody's head. But anyway, the health and safety people here are really impressive. So there won't be a problem. But yeah, look, Herdman has built an incredible bond with that team, because not so long ago the whole thing was a real mess. Now look, they may not get out of the group, I know all of that stuff, but there was a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure on Canada because they're one of the hosts in 4 years' time. So that team needs to be up to scratch, and they do have a lot of young talent coming through, really exciting players, as well as some of the more established ones. So no, I'd be a fan. I think that's unfortunate for him, but of course, listen, that paper never refused ink, and I can understand where Croatia are coming from for sure.
Yeah, but Jim, Canada, they look like a cracking team from 1 to 10, shall we say, or whatever way you want to put it. But like they need someone who can put the ball in the net, because what was it, 14 shots I think in the first half.
14 shots in the first half, 21 shots overall. All they needed the other night, they were just missing that decisive pass in the penalty area, and for somebody to stick the ball in. But I've never seen a team, maybe at recent, I'm trying to go back to remember a team that won a match at the World Cup, but in no way did they deserve to win that match. Sometimes a team can get lucky, but maybe it's a sign that the Belgians, that golden generation of the Belgians is probably now truly on the wane, maybe, despite Kevin De Bruyne sheepishly getting his man of the match awarded, his stardom and his class on the pitch. So this is maybe this is the final tournament of that batch of players that came through in qualifying 2014.
Yeah, but look, don't talk to me about the player of the match. I did want to mention this. There's been some crackers. Gareth Bale got man of the match against the USA. That was a gem. Luka Modric got man of the match against Morocco. It was, I suppose somebody had to get it. Kevin De Bruyne had himself admitted it was pretty funny. Cristiano Ronaldo got it against Ghana. So I've got to the bottom of it, Darragh. It is voted for on the FIFA Plus website. So basically, if there is one of the global superstars playing in a game, unless they get sent off and set the referee on fire, they're probably going to get man of the match.
So what are we saying here now? So because Messi is playing in this match that is still ongoing, you'll find out 30 seconds before me who wins this.
Actually, the game is now over. It's
he'll probably win man of the match.
I think he was going to win it, even if Mexico had won 8-0. Messi was probably going to win man of the match.
Yeah. So the internet strikes again, and it's all just it's all a giant conspiracy. I wondered. I thought it was some kind of technical group from FIFA who were at the games. I've heard that before at some of the UEFA tournaments where they would select the player of the match. Listen, that's remarkable for Argentina. Looking at that first half, you're thinking, okay, towards the end of the half, Argentina did start to pin Mexico back, but you're looking at it going, this is the first half an hour of the match. I'm looking at Argentina thinking they're goosed, they're done. Messi strolling around, and he has inspired them to come back again.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think we need them in the tournament. You like your shocks in the group stages, but if you get too many shocks, you're gonna end up with Brazil versus Tunisia in a quarter final, which all credit to Tunisia, nobody really wants that either. So
sounded like Roy Keane there.
You want a happy medium. You want the little guy to have their time in the sun. If you're neutral, like we have no skin in the game. You want your shocks, but you also want the best 8 teams in the world in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Mikey, we probably don't want France v Argentina in the last 16.
Yes, yeah, that could do with that. Well, Darragh, I'm conscious of the time there, so I just the last time we spoke to you, you were probably a bit jet lagged and had just arrived and hadn't seen much outside of your hotel. I'm wondering, what are your impressions of Qatar? What do you make of this tournament? Because the headlines aren't really going away, but at the same time, as expected, the football is probably outweighing the other headlines at the moment. But I'm reading about. I was listening to a podcast, the News Agents podcast, the artist formerly known as Newsnight, who now left the BBC.
Very good.
Yeah, it is very good. But one of the presenters was saying how a source close to the Qatari royal family, 3 or 4 days into the World Cup, said, gosh, I wish this World Cup would just end. What have we got ourselves into? We've shone a spotlight on ourselves. Now they just really want it all to go away. I'm wondering, do you get any sense of that on the ground?
To be honest, no. I'd love to meet the man or woman who is the event manager for this, because I suppose as time goes on, now I've seen you're talking about jet lag and all that stuff. It wasn't jet lag, but just kind of the 3-hour time difference is quite disconcerting. So, now it's just hit midnight. It's 9 o'clock where you guys are. And it is weird. But, look, they're fine-tuning things as they go along. The organization is getting better. Not that it was bad in the first place, but they're just kind of like
there's always hiccups.
Those stations, exactly.
Yeah.
They're nothing disastrous, but they're just kind of they're fine-tuning things. Like I've been at several of the grounds twice, and you can see where they've improved things as it goes along, to just, like, as I say, it was working well, but just to make it better. Look, I've been working every day since I've got here, so take out the world's smallest violin and all that stuff, but no, I'm loving it. And I get to see all these incredible players in these incredible stadiums and these fantastic matches. So this is kind of bucket list stuff, but no, like I haven't seen anything much outside the football and the hotel and the train station and the odd bus and stuff. We've taken some fan buses. Like, if you have a ticket for the match, you're entitled to get on these buses. We have a kind of hub near us here, and they bring you to the stadium, and then they bring you back home again. So, the level of organization is really good. I don't know anything about what the Qatari member of the Qatari royal family said. That may well be the case, but they would have known. Listen, you're gonna have the world looking at you for the month, and like that's what they wanted. That's why they bid for this. And like I'm walking around looking at the way this is organized and thinking the next thing they'll go for is the Olympic Games, you know. And I think it's just a natural, because the travel distances are are convenient now. Sometimes it's not, you know, you've vast amounts of people. Like the Lusail Stadium last night, we had 80,000 people basically going through a metro station, and we still managed to get home in an hour. And it was incredibly well organized. Now, not everybody was on the metro. That is an exaggeration. But what the locals have been told to do is to drive to the games and let the visitors from outside the state use the buses and use the metro. So, you know, and the metro was basically just built for this tournament. And it's very impressive. Brand spanking new, loads of stewards everywhere. There's volunteers at like every 5 feet when you go along from all over the world. Lots of Americans working on the kind of event management side. We just noticed from the accents. But, you know, look, I have not seen anything but good things. Everywhere we go, people are saying, welcome to Qatar. Now, you know, we're easy to pick out because you have the accreditation thing on, and, you know, you'd be nice to the media and all that stuff. Not that I have any influence, power or whatever, but I suppose the very fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, Mikey and James, and saying, like, everywhere we go, it's, you know, welcome to Qatar. Do you like our country? Is everything okay for you? Can we make things better? You know, once you get inside the stadiums, it's the FIFA people who are running that, and UEFA, I suppose, as well. You know, people from all over the world who are used to running big football matches. So that side of it doesn't change. You have the host broadcaster. Like, it's a massive operation. It really is incredible. And they're using every stadium every second day. So, like, it's just kind of quick fire. We're at Al Bayt tomorrow for Spain and Germany, which is kind of the furthest journey we have to do from here, which I think is like 50 kilometers. But that's, you know, having been in Austria and Switzerland in 2008, Germany, Japan, Korea, you know, where you're flying between you're taking a flight a day. Then Germany was the World Cup done on trains, you know, from one end of the country to the other. This is the World Cup done on a metro, and it's never been done before on this smaller scale. And it's, you know, I couldn't fault it up to now. I know that, listen, there are still, of course, massive issues with workers' rights, with human rights, LGBTQI community, etc. The Welsh fans having the rainbow hats taken off them. Now, that supposedly has been rectified in that FIFA are saying whoever wants to bring a hat in or a flag can do that. I haven't seen any evidence that that has actually worked, but I know Noel Mooney from the Welsh FA was very involved in the discussions with FIFA. So, you know, these issues will continue to come up. I've met very few Qataris, I would think. Now, I haven't met that many people, but everybody in the hotel is from outside the country. People cleaning the room, the bar staff, the restaurant staff, the people at breakfast in the morning. Because it is like, you know, I think are there 400,000 Qatari citizens,
something
and
like
the other 3 million are from outside the country, and they've come here to work and make this place their home. So
it makes you wonder.
Yeah,
it makes you wonder about that metro, which is being built as obviously a mass transit system to carry 80,000 people to a stadium. Who's going to use it in 4 weeks' time?
We've been having, and like, who's going to use a lot of the stadiums, and I can't give you an exact number, but, you know, various places, various stadiums the capacity has been reduced. Some of them are being taken
I think 6
down.
out of 8 are being either taken down or reduced significantly.
Exactly. Like Lusail, they're going to reduce the capacity down to 40, donate the other half of the seats to other places. 974 across the road from here. Like, it's an amazing thing. They just built it all out of these shipping containers.
That's right.
And, you know, it really is remarkable. But you can see how they're going to be able to take that down. There's not much to it, you know. Even the steps they have, instead of, you know, steps going up to the commentary position, it's like every second step is there, and then they've gaps. It's like, we don't want to waste any more concrete and stuff. The place where we were yesterday, the name escapes me, that's a recycled. They use like 80% of the stadium that was there to build a new one, you know, all of this stuff. No, I don't know about carbon neutral. I'm not an expert on that, but you know, look, it's been very good so far and very impressive, and everybody here has been very nice, notwithstanding all the other issues and those 6,500 people over the last 12 years who've lost their lives. Not building the stadiums, which was the error that was made by people, which was natural enough, but on all the infrastructure since the World Cup was given to Qatar.
And
I don't think it'll be forgotten.
Just quickly, Darragh, have they actually added seats to the stadiums? Is that why?
No,
64,000 people in the 60,000.
I know. Yeah, no, I remember watching a documentary. What's actually happened is, so I watched a documentary about Lusail before I came out, And I think there are actually close to 90,000 seats there, but the official capacity is 80, right? Because you normally have, you see it in the Aviva, with the seat kills where they have, they would block off various parts of the stadium. There might be obstructed views, or it might be to do with advertising hoardings or camera positions or whatever. But what has happened is, here they've had not tickets returned, but maybe because the media presence at like that Brazil game the other night was ridiculous. A media center the size of an aircraft hangar, right? And it was jammed, wedged. Photographers, like, they're the big draw. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And the place was absolutely wedged. So at some other grounds, the media aren't taking up as much of their allocation of tickets as at other grounds. Like when we were doing the match this evening in 974, like there must have been about 300 people walk by me as the match started, and they're going up to these, they call them observer seats for rights holders and all that stuff, that up behind us. And then before the match finished, and they missed the best part, they left about 15 minutes before the end. But you've all I'd say I had hundreds of people kind of filing by my left shoulder. We were on the edge of a row in the commentary position, and they were all leaving. So it's to do with that media stuff. I know the capacity thing is weird, and like the match today was 46,000, even though I think the official capacity is 40. So it is weird, but they've put in far too many seats in all of these stadiums. As I say, Lusail, 90,000 seats is the exact number, or more or less the exact number, but the capacity is 80, so it gives them that leeway.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was a very informative point on which to finish, Darragh. So we'll say
it wouldn't be like me to do that.
We'll quit while we're ahead.
Excellent summary, Darragh.
Jim, thank you very much. Darragh, thank you very much.
Cheers.
We'll be back tomorrow. Just a reminder, obviously, I think most people are aware that says you can watch every game live on RTE2 and RTE Player, and for the simultaneous games in the next week, you can watch one of them on the RTE News channel. Okay, we will be back tomorrow, and we'll chat to you then. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Let's go!